Welcome to Bitstorm, a comedy game design podcast by two guys who know nothing about comedy nor game design. I'm your host, Trevor Scott, and with me is my co-host, Ben Slinger.
And a nice little lilt to it this time. Sort of trying out a little sing-songy game design.
Yeah,
Hi, I'm Ben Slinger.
Feeling like I need to change it up a little bit.
You're feeling just light on your
welcome.
Just feeling light on your feet and ready to meet some games.
Yeah, so we've decided to add a little wrinkle to our usual click pitch tonight. We're going to use an extra function that, for some reason, we have always ignored on this random word generator. So we're going to try a two-word phrase each. There'll be an adjective and a noun each.
Yep.
We're going to count down 3, 2, 1. We're going to click refresh. We're going to say our adjective and noun and put them together and see whether we get some interesting ideas that are a little bit different. If it doesn't quite work, then we'll switch back to
regular click pitch. So should we have I feel like we should have a name for this new segment, like this slightly wrinkled segment. Maybe we'll just call it wrinkled click pitch. Or double click pitch, click pitch.
Insane pitch.
Well,
Actually,
insane would be as if we added the other third or fourth words that we are able to, or go into the sentence or paragraph mode you were talking about earlier.
Yes. I read Ben a paragraph before, and it was one of the funniest things that we've ever read.
Yeah, there's not. I'm just sorry. I just pulled one up. I'm not sure there's much you can get a game design out of. I mean, you could really try to interpret something like the circle upgrades the binding crystal into a lager. The pleasure screens your labeled kidney across a resistance. Throughout the glad galaxy bicycles her flexible pressure. The coordinate mumble speaks a moral next to the incompetent threshold.
The incompetent threshold. I absolutely love that.
So that would be insane click pitch. This is just like slightly ramped up click pitch. Slightly ramped up click pitch. There you go. There's our little sting. Let's get into it, shall we?
3, 2, 1. Ramp up.
Improved exit.
Biggest difficulty.
Okay.
I'm loving this already.
So I'm almost thinking this is some sort of adversarial multiplayer, where one person is trying to escape from something, and the other person is modifying the world in some way. So, hence, improved exit. Then perhaps like changing the way they need to exit this space, and biggest difficulty is they are trying to make it more difficult for this person.
Oh, so what I see this as is, you know, when you're leaving, like, say, a concert at Rod Laver Arena, which is a big arena here in Melbourne.
Well, I'm pretty sure it's been multiple names since then. I'm pretty soon it's going to be the Marvel Arena. Is that right?
No, that's Etihad Stadium, dude.
Oh, isn't it the same one?
Rod Laver is the tennis one.
Is that still Rod Laver?
Yeah, still Rod Laver, and it's always going to be Rod Laver.
Fine. So, I don't know Melbourne. I've only lived here for 30 odd years.
For most of your life, except for like a small segment in there where you lived in Canada. So I always remember leaving that place and you see like an exit sign.
Yeah. And
you start walking out. I'm imagining that you could actually have a competitive mode in which you're sort of setting exit signs up like almost like lemmings.
Okay.
You know, where you're basically saying exit this way, and you're basically just trying to...
leading someone through as they try to exit by
putting down green exit signs that sort of lead them round.
I mean,
you can sort of get them in a circle.
So are you trying to? So is this still multiplayer? Because I'm trying to think. Like, I guess it could become a bit of a sort of a game of would the other person lead me in the right direction or the wrong direction here? Like, what are they trying to do? Like having to second guess their thinking as to which way they're trying to send you. I guess it depends on the environment too, and what other possibilities there are.
I mean, you've always got the asynchronous multiplayer of you've got 20 people in the game, you know, seeing it from a first-person perspective, and one person laying out the all the exit routes, just trying to confuse the fuck out of you.
Oh, you mean asymmetrical?
Yeah, asymmetrical. What did I say?
Asynchronous.
Oh God, asymmetrical.
The difference between time and space.
Literally.
Yeah. So you thinking it's actually a concert? Or is that just your metaphor for kind of the general?
That's just my metaphor for, your job is to get out of this place, and you get led into like this maze of backstage sort of areas.
All right, so my thought, and maybe we can merge this together, because something that popped into my head was mixing some of the kind of parkour type stuff of either Mirror's Edge or Assassin's Creed, depending on your perspective, with then a world that is in flux and controlled in some manner by the other player. Now, that could involve enclosed spaces and sort of trickery around directional, like around signs and ways to go. I don't know. I guess you need to figure out what the goal is of each person and whether that's fun or not. Maybe it's almost a bit of a like. So what was the Switch game where was it the Switch game or no Wii U game? I think where you had to like put platforms down under the other person as they're playing. Was it like a Rayman game or something, or a Mario game?
Yeah, there was New Super Mario Brothers Wii that allowed you to do that, but New Super Mario Brothers Wii U that allowed you to do that.
Yeah, so
if you had the game screen, then you could actually put down a platform.
Yeah,
it wasn't a main part of the game; it was just something that you could use to fuck with everyone.
So I'm kind of thinking though, like a mix between almost that and a real time Mario Maker, where someone is building out this level as someone else is playing it. But maybe making it more into this 3D space where the person playing really has a lot of options around their movement to kind of. I don't know. I'm just picturing, they pull up a giant pillar in front of them, but the person is quick enough that the person playing is quick enough that they just like run up it and leap off and actually manage to, get up somewhere they weren't supposed to otherwise. And then, like the person putting down the level will have certain resources and certain currencies they can spend on how they can change things. But I don't know if their goal is to just make it the most interesting or hardest or what, but obviously the other person's goal is to get through it successfully.
Okay.
Or get to an exit successfully,
What if? I like that idea. I kind of also like the idea of it being a team multiplayer game where one person is say the person moving the stuff. One person is a person setting up the level or setting up the exit, improving the exit and all that sort of stuff. But you're going up against other teams. So it's all about, you get scores for difficulty. You get scores for the length of time that, like, making it quick but somewhat difficult. Sort of like style scores. All right.
Here's an even added thing to that then. I like the idea, team multiplayer, maybe teams of 4 or 6 versus one other team of 4 or 6. But you all play demigods. And there's an area in this, like there's a center of power that if you reach that center of power, that gives you the ability to change things in the landscape. So there's a bit of a king of the hill aspect that if one person from the team has got in there, then they can change a bunch of stuff to make it harder on the other team to reach their goals, because maybe there are other goals around that. You've got the rest of the team kind of defending them and trying to fight off the other demigods. But at the same time, if they're defending, they're not achieving whatever else they have to do in the level. And it's really about this back and forth of being able to alter the landscape in ways that help your team and hurt the other.
Cool. I like it.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I'm almost thinking what sort of, because I feel like we can go a bit deeper on that with a demigod, multiplayer game. I feel like that's not something that's really been done before. Do you think we'd give them, is it just like, these are strong men and women, like who are kind of just slightly enhanced compared to other people until they get into this, seat of power that lets them access their fucking godly parent in some way. I mean, that could be interesting as well, that different characters have different gods as their parents and so can do different things to the landscape. Yeah,
so you got the typical, like, Hercules, who is quite often considered a demigod, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Samson.
Well, look, it doesn't necessarily have to be those from actual literature. We could pull from that, but I like the idea of it being, our own set of characters with a little bit of backstory, each of them. And that would just give us the flexibility then to really balance it and stuff.
Fuck it. Let's just make it a licensed product of Percy Jackson.
I thought you were going to say make it a God of War game or something, because that would fit too. But sure, Percy Jackson. All right. Yes. Let's fucking do it. That's what they were all demigods, weren't they? They were all like children of gods. Right, so it's a Percy Jackson. They're still making those movies, aren't they? Or did they fail
I
too
think
much?
they only made 2.
This is going to be their next big push. It's like, all right, Fortnite's big with Gen Zs, Gen Zers, I don't know, what are you, Genzers? We're gonna, and Percy Jackson, like everyone loves that guy, so we're gonna compete. Team multiplayer, Percy Jackson game. Everyone's demigods, and yeah, you've got, and look, the gods are fucking rapists and lovers and whatever. Like, you don't have to have that many different types of powers to have a bunch of different characters.
Oh, definitely.
Zeus has spat out so many children. Who the fuck knows?
Yeah, and all he's doing is like, firing off fuckloads of lightning rods and all that sort of stuff. Then you got like your Hermes, you got your Aphrodite.
Yeah. I don't know.
There's lots of them.
There's lots, but it'd be more about...
They've all spat at kids.
It'd be more about... Yeah, but it'd be more about the interesting powers you could give them then. So yeah, like a child of Zeus can like go up there, commune with Zeus and blast some shit. Maybe they really are trying to compete with Fortnite, and so there's like building mechanics, and so you can just like take down someone's walls and that they've built with a flurry of lightning bolts. And continue to do that until they come and take you out in some way, or and then you've got someone who can tear apart the earth, someone who can make fucking geysers of lava or something that changes the landscape in different ways.
Yep,
that'd be really cool.
I like that.
Percy Jackson and the Fortnite Killer.
3 to 1 click.
Constant sick.
Mum Roman.
Mum Roman?
Yes.
How is mum an adjective?
As in keeping mum.
Keeping
silent.
All right, are we going with that one? Because I kind of like the idea of it being Caesar as a child, as a sickly child, and his mum having to take care of him. I don't know where the game is, but...
So what was yours again?
Constant sick. I mean, vomitoriums. I know they weren't actually places to vomit, but there's the whole thing about like the rich Romans being gluttonous. Maybe this is 7-year-old Caesar who just can't stop eating. I'm trying to think of what a dessert would be from that time. But it's like baby Caesar and his best friend Brutus.
God. Okay, so I'm liking the idea of it being that you play as Caesar's mum.
Yeah, okay.
And you've got a kid who's constantly sick.
Yeah.
And so the gameplay is more around in this time, how do you make your kid feel happier? How do you like help?
Give them something to conquer. They'll be fine.
Yeah. You got to keep their friend Brutus away because Brutus keeps on like wanting to stab him in the back.
Yeah. With a pen. Like just with a stick. Yeah, like I mean you could definitely. And look, I don't know much about the history of Rome and Caesar and such, but you could do some interesting things there. It's basically like a Muppet Babies version of the Roman Empire.
Yep.
I'm not sure I know enough to really bring any more interesting things in there without just like reading the Wikipedia article right now, but an Asterix, he's there.
What about Obelix?
Obelix, geriatrics, gives him some of the special
God, I love
juice.
those comics. If you don't know what we're talking about, check out Asterix and Obelix, a set of comics from France.
What's fantastic about those comics is all the names are puns, and they were successfully translated from French into English to keep their puns. Very impressive.
Yeah. It's pretty damn impressive. More impressive than damn Tintin.
Tintin.
Fuck that.
Fuck Tintin. That's the name of the episode.
Yeah, no, it isn't. 3 to 1 click.
Competing qualification.
Herd communicating.
Again, herd is, I guess that's like a adverb or something. No, like I don't know, anyway. Oh, wait, H-E-R-D?
H-E-A-R-D.
Oh, yeah, okay. Not sure that's an adjective. Doesn't matter. Herd communicating. Well, I mean, okay, so some sort of sound-based communication.
Competing
competing qualification.
Okay, so you've got a team of, it's a multiplayer game.
Yep.
Where you got like, two teams and, they're competing to basically qualify for the next round. But the idea that you can actually send listening devices into other people's groups to try and hear what they're actually communicating.
All right. Yeah, look, sorry, I interrupted, but I do like where that's going. So what I was going to say is we would have to bring in some sort of gameplay mechanic that requires some sort of in-game communication.
Yes.
But I very much like this idea of basically having to spy on another human team as part of the gameplay without being caught, and or you're bug detected in some way, or you could have mechanics around different types of bugs, perhaps, or different ways to eavesdrop.
So I like the idea that you've got different people in the team that actually have to do different jobs. So one of the jobs is actually scanning for bugs. Yeah. So you've got one guy whose whole job is to basically scan around, making sure that there's no bugs. No one's actually able to hear this stuff. Mm-hmm. But of course, there's other ways that people can sort of hear, whether you could actually have like, a long range microphone that, detects like the vibrations in glass or stuff like that.
Here's something that's forming in my head. It's a multiplayer sort of base building / kind of horde mode-ish sort of thing where you were able to set up defenses and stuff. So I don't know that you're necessarily full on building bases, but you're modifying bases in some way to build up a defense. And everything needs a power source. So you're also having to like hook up with, pretty basic wire kind of, you're hooking up the wires, you're placing the wires down, to be able to power these different things. And so what this brings in is a couple of mechanics that are interesting. One is the other player could do something. If you're not careful, the other player can like cut off your power to something if you haven't protected it well enough. Mm-hmm. So you've got a series of turrets that are all connected to one circuit or whatever, and they're able to cut that off. But what I was thinking around the hearing thing is one of the ways you can bug something is listening to, like if you place an area bug down, you can hear any like electrical pulses or pulses of this power that are going through that area. So you're kind of getting this intelligence from them of like how much activity is happening in that area around what they're building. Mm-hmm. And you could also have it like that any sort of communication has to go via, some of these devices that you can then also tap and hear actual voice or messages or something.
Yep. So I do still like the idea that it's some sort of qualifying for the next round, as in if you happen to win best 2 out of 3 or something like that.
Yeah. I mean,
then you qualify for the next round, hence bringing in qualifications. So
we can
think of any other.
That's fine. We can let that one go if we need to as well. But no, I like that idea in general of just, and there could be different ways to. Or maybe it's even that, you can place down certain types of bugs that will measure the power running through a certain area. And so, they've set up a bunch of turrets. Because what I'm thinking is basically what I'm thinking is that both teams are building these things. But it comes to a head in some way where, they are eventually one is going to have to attack the other. And so maybe it's around battling for resources. Maybe the power runs out after a while and you're able to start stealing power from the other or something. So I'm sort of thinking similar to PUBG where the circle is enclosing, but not a physical circle. I'm thinking more about that there's some sort of contrived mechanic that means after a certain time, they're just going to have to attack each other to continue to survive. But then what that comes down to is during that first kind of less tense, less combative period, it really depends on how much intelligence you've done, so that once you get to that stage, it's like you can send one of your people over there because they've got a cluster of turrets connected to one circuit that you can cut. And because you've got a bug, when that's been cut because like the flow of power is no longer being sent back to you. The sound of that is no longer being heard. Yeah, I don't know. I think there's some really cool stuff you could do there.
Yeah.
I'm
just trying to think where else I can take it.
I don't know. Is it because I like the spy thing? I like the aspect of camouflage and of stealth. In having to place these bugs, and maybe even while someone is in there, they can be communicating back, and maybe you can get higher fidelity information, or that's where you get the actual voice from of the people communicating or something. If someone's physically there, that could be cool. And then, there'd be aspects around building detectors of different things as well that you have to power them. And so there's a trade-off between putting power towards detectors now versus, defenses later.
I'm picturing, if you remember, in like Team Fortress 2, the spy character could actually disguise themselves as the other team.
Yeah, so there could be an aspect of that.
Yeah, I kind of like that idea. Having to sort of take notice as to, hang on, all the other guys are over there. Who's this guy coming through? Hey, oh my God, we've got someone coming through now.
Yeah, I like that. I like that idea. I think it'd be, because of the whole build up and attack later on, it'd be a bit more. It wouldn't be quite as fast paced then as Team Fortress 2.
No, definitely not.
So it would be a bit more like you kind of just, you're moving around the base, people are building things, people are putting up defenses, people are putting up detectors. And like they put a detector up and you realize the person who's been sort of beside you this whole time is actually not on your team, and you realize they've been going along behind you, disabling everything you've been building.
I'm just picturing what the other team is doing at this point as well. Like, I think you've got like an attack phase in AM and a defending phase, but what you can sort of be setting up is like maybe some extra traps to like give you cover and that sort of stuff.
And I think maybe there's an aspect of having to roam for resources a bit. So some of the team kind of has to go out on quick, scavenger rounds almost. Or, if you find a power source, but it's a little bit away from where you're building your base, you can hook up your power, but the other team, if they happen to come across it and no one's defending it, they're just going to like cut it off. So, there are these sort of back and forth little skirmishes that are happening throughout the, 10 or 15 minute rounds or whatever, 20 minutes. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not until those last 5 minutes where it's like, oh shit, like maybe it's just, that there is a limited amount of these resources that you need to build things. And so it really just comes down then to, if you're going to survive, you have to attack the other person.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's cool. I think there's some really interesting mechanics.
There's some interesting ideas in there. Stuff that hasn't been done before, but let's click again.
Yeah. We spit those out for breakfast. That's not how that works, but anyway.
Go.
Oh, you go.
I'll go. Again, I don't know how this is an adjective, but star speeding.
Western mummy. All right, so I'm having like my neurons are firing and I'm making a couple of connections there. Star, I'm connecting to a sheriff's badge because Western, I'm connecting to obviously Westerns. Mummy, I'm thinking like Universal Monsters style.
Yes, same here.
And then what was the other one? Speeding.
All right. I mean, what I'm picturing is like a horse chase where you've got like a mummy on a horse, like sort of running off into the distance, and like the sheriff.
I'm just picturing their fucking bandages like unraveling as they go. Yeah.
So what I'm picturing is it's a game where you play as the sheriff of this small town.
Okay.
In like Small Dusty sort of thing.
That's the name of the town, in fact. Small Dusty.
Small Dusty.
I'm from Small Dusty. There's actually a regular town called Dusty, and this is like a splinter faction that like created their own town. Small Dusty. Just giving some backstory. Go on.
Okay, so a interesting man called Archibald Fleming comes to town.
Where did you pull that from?
I don't know. I just came up with it.
Okay.
What do you reckon?
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. So Archibald Fleming's come to town. He's sort of like a well-dressed man from the city. And he's brought with him like this traveling exhibition of Egyptian artifacts, and he wants to set up like a museum in one of the closed down stores.
Okay.
But when he does some like interesting things start happening, a la like people start seeing like an Egyptian mummy roaming around the town, and having to sort of follow down this mystery, I think could actually be quite an interesting way of sort of seeing the life in this 1850s sort of town. I'm seeing the guy come in like a stagecoach sort of thing with like this traveling museum.
Yeah. No, I like the general vibe. So what sort of... So it sounds like it's sort of somewhat of a slow-paced mystery, like adventure kind of thing. You're not thinking particularly
with a couple of
action-based.
high-speed chases on horses.
Yeah. Obviously, you'll have those moments in there. Okay. So why is this mummy roaming? Can we come up with a reason that might send us down some story paths?
I mean, where my head was actually going is a la Scooby Doo. Is the mummy is just Archibald Fleming, just dressed up in a mummy costume.
Spoilers.
What?
That's fine.
But
Okay.
he's literally going around trying to scare people and
Is he trying to,
stealing all their money.
He's
a
just like
scam
scaring
artist.
them out of their homes and stealing their shit.
Yeah.
I thought maybe he was trying to bring property values or something down because he wants to buy up the town.
Well, that could be. That does sound a little bit more Scooby Doo ish, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So,
Maybe he's found like precious minerals. I don't know. Oil.
I like the idea that he's also got his daughter along. And
Along Fleming, is that her name?
no, I was actually thinking
Yes, and
either Matilda or I had another.
Matilda
name,
is fine. Matilda or
Matilda
Along Fleming. Yeah, Matilda, sure. Tildy.
So I kind of see, her maybe as the love interest who also happens to be in on the plan.
Okay, she's in on the plan. All right, but she is the
And
love
so-
interest to the main character?
Your main character, yeah.
All right.
But I think her part of the plan
because we're
is
saying you play the sheriff, right?
yes.
Yeah, okay. I like that.
So what I kind of like is that she's actually in on the whole thing and, occasionally gets dressed up as the mummy as well. But the only reason why she does is to take away suspicion just from her dad.
Yeah, to provide her dad an alibi
Yep.
in certain situations. Okay. So, how are you picturing the gameplay playing out? Are we going point and click? Are we going sort of LA Noire? Are we going kind of...
I kind of see it as a cross between LA Noire and, Red Dead. So, a little bit more conversation-y.
So we're pitching this to Rockstar for Red Dead 3. Pivot to a mystery. Yeah, okay. Or maybe a spin-off game. So a bit more slow paced, but there's still a bit of gunplay, a bit of horse chases.
And yes, you've got the overarching mystery of, what's causing this mummy to roam around the town and,
I think you'd make it
disappearing
more
from
linear.
the museum.
I don't think you'd make it full open world in that same way.
No,
It'd be
but
more
you've
like
also
LA
got-
Noire where you're heading to specific situations. I mean, you probably got the town because it's going to be a relatively small town anyway.
I like the idea that occasionally, you get some bar fights breaking out at the saloon, and then you've got the occasional duel at midday.
Right. Yeah.
The typical sort of Western things,
Cliched Western things. Yeah, for sure.
But then you've also got this sort of, I know I'm sort of getting a Bubba Hotep sort of vibe in my head.
Yeah, I do like that idea of kind of having to balance out, because nobody's going to believe you that there's this fucking supernatural being wandering around.
Or they're not going to believe that it's not, that it isn't a supernatural being.
Right, I guess you
around.
could go that way too. Yeah, they're all convinced it's literally this mummy, and you're like, no, it's a dude. Occasionally,
It's a
woman.
dude in a mask. Come on.
Zoinks.
I so want to have little allusions to Scooby Doo.
Oh yeah, he calls his horse the Mystery Machine.
He calls his horse
Paints it green and
Scooby.
orange.
You could have in Boot Hill, here lies Fred, and
Right, there's a little cravat hanging off the tombstone.
something like that. Just little
Totally.
nods, but not enough to go. Yeah, it's just them. I like the idea that Archibald or Matilda are with you during a couple of the scenes, and they look legitimately scared and all this sort of stuff. I think that could
Could do an interesting
have-
branching thing where like they're definitely both in on it, but the kind of mastermind behind it changes based on the choices you make. So you could pursue the romantic interest with Matilda, which, maybe puts the story towards a more interesting dramatic turn where, it turns out Archibald was the mastermind behind it and she's sort of going along with it, but doesn't, change their mind. But maybe you could also have a really interesting friendship or romance, I guess, if you want to go down that path. But I'm sort of thinking of like splitting the story a bit. But if you get along better with Archibald, it turns out that Matilda is the mastermind behind it all, and he's kind of just an old, friendly guy who's trying to help his daughter out and sort of fell along with the plan.
I know. I kind of like the twist of you've fallen in love with a bad guy, like the mastermind behind it, and that's sort of like the twist of, yep.
Oh, okay. So flip that. So you could still have it branching, but like whoever you kind of pursue in those ways turns out to actually be the mastermind.
Yep.
Yeah,
and they're just so good.
Because then you get a bit of a betrayal. Yeah. Well, and that'd be good because you could really make it so that the suspicion is on the other person, so that when but
in reality, it's just blackmail that's sort of getting them to go along with it.
Yeah, or coercion or whatever, right? Yeah, maybe they're not even related. Maybe they're just like, it's completely an act. That could be a really good reveal at the end.
Yeah, when they offer you the position of like the second in command in this thing, and offer to betray their friend.
Yeah, well maybe, maybe it's
Star
maybe
Wars,
it's that maybe it's that you have the whole moment of reveal where you finally track down the mummy, you pull off the mask, and it's Archibald. It was Archibald the whole time, but then the big twist, you think you've solved it all, but then somehow you find out that it was Matilda who masterminded the whole thing. She was just coercing him, and now she wants you to come on board as her second in command.
Yeah,
and you could even end it on that decision. That'd be cool.
Yeah, it would be.
It'd make it hard to do the sequel then.
It would, but you can always do what how even though you could do anything that you really wanted to in say Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah,
there was still a canonical ending.
Yeah, or either that you have multiple like beginnings based on your choice of the last game, and then you just kind of merge them into a single story. It only affects the beginning and maybe some of your different stats or items or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one. I like that. Yeah, that came along. I really like the dramatic stuff that we kind of pulled out of that.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Very dramatic. Alpha insisting.
Deterrent fringe. Oh, no. I'm not sure there's a game in this. And I'm not... No, sorry. My mind went to, like, someone trying to turn off an insistent alpha male by, like, growing their hair out. That was, like, the most literal version of those words. But I'm not sure there's a game there, and I'm not sure we want to tackle toxic masculinity that thoroughly.
No. The two words that sing out in my mind are alpha and fringe.
Okay.
Mainly because there was a TV show called Alphas.
Okay.
And there was also a TV show called Fringe.
Yes.
And so I'm picturing sort of like the weird sciencey stuff.
Now, I've only watched one of these. What was Alphas about?
It was based in the same universe as Eureka and Warehouse 13.
Oh, okay. I never watched those either, but I know a bit more about those. So there was sort of this like secret, like quite advanced science happening.
Yeah. And Alphas was more around like, people who had like somewhat powers, but not so much as like superheroes as such, but just enhanced minds and that sort of stuff.
Okay. And so what was your other word?
Insisting. And yours was?
Deterrent.
I don't know why, but I keep on going back to multiplayer. So I like the idea of...
He's a theme this episode, yeah.
It's in sort of like a sciencey world from like an Alphas or Fringe. Mm-hmm. Basically, you play on one of two teams. One being more... It can be, different parts of like the government of this country or something like that, but they've gone down different routes of basically
like the types of science
the types of
that they've sort of pursued,
enhanced abilities that they each have got, and they're effectively waging a war against each other.
All right. Yeah.
That's where I sort of see it at the start. There's obviously some sort of conspiracy that can sort of be going along underneath the.
So how is this working as a multiplayer? Like, are you thinking of this as a competitive multiplayer, or is this more of a somewhat story-based co-op sort of thing?
I sort of see it as a story-based competitive.
It's like a bit of a Division or something. Doesn't the Division do that? Oh no, or is that all PvE?
Yeah, I was thinking more
Overwatch.
Like Fortnite has like some information underneath. Overwatch has like story underneath and all
right.
that sort of
So
stuff.
it's more of just that sort of thing, but there's a rich lore to it that we're coming up with as to why these people are trying to beat the shit out of each other.
Yeah.
Okay, so how can we make this a little bit different than your regular old team-based shooter then? What are you thinking?
So I'm thinking definitely you got the mind-bending, sciencey bullshit from Fringe, in that you've got...
Yeah, like, just devices?
No,
or
I'm
are
trying
these
to think
people altered in some way? Or maybe those are the two... maybe those are the factions. There's one faction that went down the actual body modification and augmentation path. And there's the other faction that went more around the, like, wearables and communication kind of technologies, but it's, like, outside of their bodies.
Yeah, and so you've got more, like, projectiles and that sort of stuff on the other group, and you've got things like speed and
strength and flight. Well, flight could be both, I guess.
Yeah. I like the idea of flight being, jetpacks and stuff for the wearables. And, like... I'm just trying to think that it's like, rather than being flight for the body modifications, they can just jump really, really high.
Yeah. Early Superman style. Before he could like fly around the earth backwards and turn back time.
Leap over a single building without breaking an ankle.
Well, actually, it's actually that they can leap over a single building, and all that happens is they break an ankle, but they do still break that ankle. So it's just kind of a bit of a downside to that.
I'm just trying to think where deterrent is going to come in, and maybe that comes in that one of the things that sort of annoyed me about, say, your Overwatch and that sort of stuff is that these things are always sort of happening in deserted towns. What if this is happening in literally a populated city?
Okay.
So you can't just be going off and firing, because you got basically, civilians that, so as you go into a shop, you see, someone stick their head up over the counter, you shoot them, but it's like, no, it was a civilian hiding for their life.
So it's not quite as fast paced, just shooter as Overwatch. It's a bit more not methodical.
But hide and seeky as well as, if you hide in a group of people, that's certainly a tactic that you can.
Yeah. And they could choose to lose points. It could almost be a bit of like, so Titanfall, it didn't have innocent civilians, but it had AI controlled players, right, on your team.
Yep.
So you could you could bring in a bit of that where instead of them just being cannon fodder for a small amount of points like they're in Titanfall, it's the opposite. It's like, if you kill them, you will lose points.
Yep.
And maybe maybe it's even that, because some people don't care about, obviously to win the game you need points, perhaps, but maybe it's more about the deployment of, your super technology, kind of like your ultimate in Overwatch. It's building up towards something as you kill people, but killing civilians, like, turns that back or resets it or something if you kill enough or whatever.
Well, and this is actually where you can actually have, say, one team, they've got their thing is they want to deter you from actually, going out and killing civilians, whereas the other team insists that taking out this other team is more important than
right. Yeah, so there's a real ideological difference as well.
Yeah. So depending on what side you're actually on, depends on whether you sort of act somewhat terroristic and sort of take out civilians.
You'd have to balance that in some way.
It could literally be that you can't just go ahead and murder civilians, because that's just not the right thing to do. But if you've got a group of people sort of, you got one of your main enemies in close proximity, being on one side, killing these civilians isn't going to give you a penalty as long as they're within, sort of a 10 meter.
Yeah, but then how does that balance against, like, the other team doesn't have that benefit? Like, they will always get a penalty. So you have to balance that out in some way. Because I like what that does. I like what that does. Maybe it's that you can get civilians to safety or something, or maybe it's like for bonuses. Maybe they've got some way to get bonuses for saving civilians. Because I really like that idea of the bad guy can hide amongst a group of civilians, and that really limits what the other person can do, the other team can do to take them out. That's really cool. But maybe they can fire. Maybe they can send in like an incapacitation sort of grenade that is non-lethal. So it's basically going to make that person fall asleep. Yeah. Perhaps. And then you can come in and like clear everyone out and yeah. Look, I really like that idea as a gameplay mechanic. I don't know if you just make the good guys, as it were, like they maybe just have more power in general. Maybe their thing ticks up slightly faster. It's just that if they kill civilians, they get a penalty. Like you just have to find a way to balance that.
I mean, what I kind of love is you're say going for a match. You see this crowded sort of cafe, but then across the like the quad or whatever across the cafe, you see like one of the other enemies. So you take a single shot and then everyone just sort of panics and goes absolutely everywhere. Like,
oh yeah, well maybe you get bonuses for taking out a person who does have a bunch of civilians around them without hurting any of those civilians.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, that does encourage them to be a bit reckless. But yeah, if you've got good snipers or something, yeah.
Headshot, bang.
Yeah.
If you had a silencer on, then they don't even get none of the
no one else can see. Yeah. Hey, you've got some blood on you. Oh, holy shit. Just a hole in their head.
Someone's drinking coffee with, like, they got blood splattered all over them.
They just keep... Oh, God.
Beautiful day today. What's that on your face? Blood.
Oh, that's blood. Yeah, but I guess, so if we're going for this kind of slower paced thing a bit, and I like the idea where you have the opportunity to do things like that, to take someone out when they're not expecting it amongst a bunch of civilians. What are people doing in the meantime when they're not literally just attacking the other team? Like, are there other goals that are sort of being carried out in a round?
I kind of like the idea that it's like a fringe, like, mystery that you're trying to investigate, but it's like you've got competing groups that are coming in, and you got to sort of get
like
to the crime scene.
Over the course of one round, though.
Yeah, so like over the course of say 5 rounds, you've got different crime scenes that you're sort of going
so it's almost a bit more
analyze.
of a Left 4 Dead sort of thing, where you've got this sort of narrative, semi-narrative running through, but instead of it being full co-op, you each have a role in each sort of section.
Yeah.
That could be cool.
So you got your analyst who has to get in there and sort of analyze the crime scene. But you can only analyze the crime scene if you don't have anyone else from the other team in that proximity
that you're aware of, or maybe they can like sabotage or something.
Well, I'm thinking it kind of like a capture the flag, where your percentage analyzed goes up only when you're there alone.
Right. I guess I'm just trying to figure out the sort of the balance between, like more of a classic team shooter where it is that sort of king of the hill sort of thing, counting up, everyone's defending, to something that's a little bit more slower paced where, I mean, and again, maybe sort of too similar to what we did last time, but where you've got a bit more of that build up, or I guess just going through, like I like that idea of it being a narrative setting. And, you could do it procedurally. You could mix and match them. So you go through 3 or 4 of them to get through a whole round, but you make it different ones at each time, and they lead into each other in different ways, based on, how, whether you've successfully analyzed the crime scene in the previous one, and that leads to, a further mystery around this weird technology or creature or whatever.
Yeah. And I kind of like the idea that it's sort of building up until you've got like the sort of final level in which you're going up against, some force from say another world or something like that. But you're still like, depending on how much you've analyzed, say it was like a big Godzilla style monster.
You like
how much you analyze depends on
weapons.
how much you know about the weak points and that sort of stuff. And it's whoever makes the most damage to the other team and the monster at the same time.
Well, yeah, I think then obviously the sort of the bad team are the ones who are bringing this monster about. It is very asymmetrical, which isn't a bad thing. It's just going to be tough to balance, but
I wasn't thinking asymmetrical, though.
well, it is in that if by the last fucking level, the bad team basically has a giant Godzilla monster on their side.
No, I'm not saying that the bad team has a giant Godzilla on their side. I'm saying that whoever got the most amount of information has the most amount of information on them.
They're both trying to do it. I thought you were saying that
they're competing investigative agencies, sort of like your CIA and FBI, except they just hate each other so much that they have to destroy each other.
Are they constantly killing each other? Or are we moving away from the shooter aspect?
I still like the shooter aspect. I like the idea that what you're actually doing is maybe if it was, say, robot based, you're just decommissioning their robots so that you can.
Right. Maybe it's like a bit of maybe it's a bit of a Surrogates. I don't know if there's a better example of that, but like Bruce Willis in Surrogates, where all of these people are actually just controlling, like robotic versions of themselves out in the world for some reason. Maybe this is in the future and the entire like atmosphere is full of poison. I don't know. But they're still up there trying to investigate all this weird shit that's going on. Look, that one went all over the place. I think there's some really good ideas in there. We didn't quite nail them down, but I think we should move on and do one more.
Okay.
3, 2, 1, click. Obscene roll. ROLL.
Okay. Confidential pointer.
Oh, man. All right. Okay. Trying to think how I could bring these ideas together in a way that doesn't just talk about dicks immediately.
And people pointing at them.
Or with them. So in a world where everyone's dick is a laser pointer, this ordinary office meeting is going to go south really quickly.
Okay.
As the flamboyant boss rolls his way into the room to point at the confidential information on the slides.
Oh, see, I was thinking for confidential, I can't get out of my head like LA Confidential.
Mm-hmm.
So thinking around like, a 1940s sort of aspect of a 1940s world that for some reason
they've all got laser pointers for dicks.
If you want to go down that route, I was thinking, again, sort of thinking a narrative sort of game where maybe one of the things that has happened is there's an obscene, either obscene caller who's been harassing lots of people, or there's a guy in a trench coat who's been going round and like pointing at ladies with his laser cock.
Laser cock. Well, I was thinking, because technically I got obscene roll, in which case roll is a noun. So maybe it's about a baker who makes dick-shaped bread rolls in the 1940s.
Yeah, now I'm just picturing, because you said roll and I totally forgot about that, I'm just picturing like a naked Dark Souls sort of game where you're just doing
all the rolls.
Rolling.
So it's a cross between Dark Souls and Conan Exiles. Whatever it was, Conan Exile.
Dick swinging.
Dick swinging. There's no censorship. It's just every time you roll, depending on how you set up your character, your dick may hit you in the face. Or the butt. I'm not sure how the physics works on that.
And the navigational
every
pointer
time there's
is
a quest
you with a boner.
Yeah, every time there's a quest nearby. Inverse kinematics, baby.
Okay, I reckon we click again.
All right. 3, 2, 1, click.
Condensed population.
Later cookie. Later cookie.
Okay, so I've kind of got something that we wrote a song about a long time ago.
Okay.
You remember what I'm?
No.
Where I'm going?
I don't remember things. You know that.
It was a Kurodust track that didn't make it onto the album.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure it was talking about like this utopia.
Yeah.
That basically the people that I'm going to sort of spoil the ending, but the people that ran this sort of town, the big conspiracy thing, not that it's really much of a conspiracy because it's well known throughout all the adults, is that the way that they knew that Utopia would actually work is with like a limited number of people in a small amount of space. So they literally set off like a nuclear explosion, and they're the only ones left on the planet.
That's right. I'd completely forgotten about that. I wrote that fucking song, and I completely forgotten about it.
Yeah, about 10 years ago, something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm pretty sure that's the one that had like the shotgun riff.
Yeah, I think you're right. Well, which we then moved into, we brought into something else, didn't we? Yeah. And then we reused it. Okay. So I like that idea then. Yeah, that it's this population that's been condensed into. So yeah, it's. So I guess is the sort of narrative arc then that everyone knows that they're, probably the only sort of town left on Earth or something. And then the big reveal is that it was intentional by like the elders of this society. Yeah,
I think if you've seen the film The Village, by M. Night Shyamalan, the way that the whole thing's presented is this is reality, and it's just this small little town, and they're away from everything altogether. I'm seeing like some pretty high technology. I'm seeing that they're kind of in like a domed city, and the sky is maybe purple. It looks very alien. Like,
okay. And so, are you saying that initially we don't tell the player what's going on?
I think what the player plays is they play a kid.
Okay.
Who goes to school and here's like the kid version of where they actually are, which is say on a distant planet or something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
They're terraforming the land, and
that's why the sky is a different color, and okay, but they can't go outside the dome.
You've got literally like only 200, 100 people in this dome, sort of thing, and it's just a wasteland outside.
So is this like the first or second generation of kids born there? Maybe the second. Maybe the second. So it's like this kid's grandparents are the ones who founded this place.
When you get to a certain age, then you start finding out about this information.
Yeah.
And what actually happened. I always like these narrative point-and-click sort of things of you're just trying to find out, something of a mystery. And the idea that maybe the elders don't want you knowing this information yet because you're too young and you don't understand why they did it.
Well, and I think what I like, I feel like this is a really bad one to have done like literally when we're past the hour mark because I just want to dig into it. And it should have been an AGDDQ, but I like the idea then that you do, as you grow older, you find out a bit more information and you find out that there was this like nuclear war, but they're still telling you like, that's why they left.
Yeah.
So you do get a bit more of history of what happened on Earth, and that sort of everything broke down, nuclear war, but, some people got out and maybe they tell you that they, sent out a bunch of different ships and we were on one of the ships or something. But like you continue growing older and maybe there's something suspicious about it. Like, I don't know, maybe this is even just I guess that's not, I'm trying to think what the drive forward is for this main character as the game goes forward.
So
are they just you go.
Where I'm sort of seeing it, like, because they're in a dome and it's a condensed population, you can only have X number of people. Any time that a baby is born, a lottery is held for the oldest citizens, and the person that comes up, they're the person who gets killed.
Okay.
So it's basically like this really horrific sort of thing.
Well, I suspect, though, that because then you can really explore, like, a society built around this is probably, like, they're honouring these people, right?
Yeah. So you can have, like, this thing where you're with your grandfather and, he's basically your guardian because your parents, unfortunately, aren't alive.
Right.
And I like the idea, either your grandfather or your grandmother, maybe.
Yeah,
I'm not sure which way to go, but the idea that your grandparents' name has come up in the hat, and they're your only guardian.
Right.
So that sort of takes you down this.
You basically become an orphan.
You start thinking, why do we do this thing? What there's got to be some reason as to why we're in this dome and all this sort of stuff, and that sort of gives you pause to
Well, okay, I like this idea then that you set up this character in a way that sets them a little bit apart from this society.
Yep.
But I think for a good part of the game, it's not like there's some grand mystery going on for the character themselves. The drive is really for the player then to be exploring this world and this society and finding out why they do this and what's happening under the guise of this kid / teenager / whatever is. Oh, you're thinking they're trying to save them? No, I'm thinking they literally.
I'm thinking that they don't think that it's right because of it's their only guardian and they literally don't have anyone else. But.
Oh yeah, no, I was going down a different path. I think there's a scene at the beginning when the kid is relatively young, like 7 or 8, when their grandparent comes up for this lottery and is shot into space or whatever they do, right?
Just loaded into a cannon and shot into the side of the
like
dome.
a tasteful. No, they open the dome. They it's all very secretive. You can't get into the facility, but they have a very tasteful rocket with their face painted on the side of it.
and they call it the Death Star.
And they just see them, everyone watches through the side of the dome, but they just see them get fired off into the distance, into the sun or something. But anyway, this kid saw this happen and had this happen and became an orphan and a ward of the state basically, or went into some other family or whatever. Mm-hmm. Had this traumatic experience. The next scene, the next bit you play, they're like a teenager now. They're in high school or whatever the equivalent is. They're this whole time they've kind of felt really uneasy about what happened. But when you're a 7 or 8 year old, you don't question it. It's just what you've grown up with. But as they get older, they start questioning it. They start talking to people. They start saying, why do we do this? Why are we here? Where did this come from? But at the same time, I think you actually make it just a relatively mundane story about this person integrating into this society, having had this experience. Because what
and
makes
going to live with a foster family.
Well, that's it. And what makes it interesting for the player is this world is so alien to them. They want to find out everything about it too. But to the character, it's what they've grown up with, and it's more they're going through their kind of teenage questioning rebellion stage.
Yeah.
But then, they find out kind of more than they counted on. First, just the history of Earth and that it was this nuclear war. And I mean, that's, some of that's taught in school, but
the lottery is actually somewhat rigged in that, none of the government officials will ever get chosen. And
they start uncovering some of the corruption within the society. And then obviously eventually the big reveal is they uncover the fact that the whole nuclear decimation of the planet was arranged by these very same people who are still in power, after 60 years or something.
But you know what I kind of like? That the final shot is just a zoom out of the domed city. And as it goes further and further, it sort of does the Wall-E thing of you thought that there was only one plant, on Earth, but as it goes back, you actually see
a bunch of other
plants
domes.
Actually sort of.
Oh, you're saying you see plants? I think you see a bunch of other domes, maybe.
Maybe, yeah. You see some other domes, and it's this isn't the only place that this went down.
Or it's just they're not the only people who survived.
Yeah,
yeah. That'd be cool. I do wish we'd now just spent the entire episode on this one. I really, really like the general idea and the narrative behind it. You could do some cool puzzles and stuff.
Sorry.
God damn it. Cut these last 15 minutes and we'll do it next week. No, I'm just kidding. No, that's really cool. I really, really like that idea.
Yeah, the second I saw condensed population, it just, my mind went straight back to...
Your, memory circuits of your brain, I don't know, they're just buff or something. They've been working out for the last 20 years and... Yeah.
Yeah, I keep on remembering, songs that we've written.
Do you remember any of the lyrics of it? I've probably got them in a book somewhere.
You do have the lyrics somewhere, and I remember it was either called the 100 or something.
Oh, it was. It was called the 100, I think.
Yeah.
That was before there was an actual show called the 100.
Yeah.
They ripped us off. All right, we should finish.
Yeah, I mean, it was, 2008, 2007, something like that we wrote that song?
Yeah.
2008 it would have been.
Yeah.
It was the second or third song that we actually wrote.
Yeah, I remember we wrote it at Jay's in Ringwood, so.
Yep.
Cool.
God, why
I really liked it.
Why does the best game come up right at the end?
I know. Well, I think we did a good job of wrapping it up there. So,
yeah.
Shall we finish up?
I think we should.
All right. Well, we are going to end it there. So thank you for joining us this week on Bitstorm. If you want to find us on the internet, we're on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. We are Bitstormcast on all of those. We have a Facebook group, facebook.com/group/Bitstorm. We have a very important Podchaser page, podchaser.com/Bitstorm, and you can also get to our YouTube from that page. It is in the side links.
If you have Apple devices and you, for some reason, use iTunes, you can rate and review and subscribe to us there. We have a website, bitstormcast.com, which I'm pretty sure you can also access via our Podchaser page.
Yes, indeed.
I'd like to plug our friends at the AGPN, the Australasian Gaming Podcast Network. Just search on Twitter for #AGPN or Facebook for the Australasian Gaming Podcast Network and find all a good manner of podcasts there. And finally, we'd like to thank our previous band, Kurodust, for the song Mount Defiance, the last song on the album Containment Failure.
Yeah.
Go to kurodust.net.
I think that's still up.
It is. I went there the other day.
Okay. I've been paying for that fucking domain and hosting for the last decade. All right. Yes, so thank you again for joining us this week on Bitstorm. I'm Ben Slinger.
I'm Trevor Scott.
I have a laser dick.
And I'm pointing at it.
I am burning out your eye sockets.
Ah!
1,000 men and women who work to kill the human race. Countless hours of blood and sweat to reach this final place. Pregnant minds with much disease in body, land and mind. Change is necessary if anyone wants to survive. People all around the world started to see clear. Waking up, see the danger, complacency's bringing near. Gathering to figure out what work is to be done. Stop the crash and make this perfect world for everyone. Now we can keep the world we plan, based on sweat of every man. No more hate, no more fear, no false God, no way near. Now we can keep the world we plan, based on sweat of every man. No more hate, no more fear, no false God, no way near. No wasted time and money on an endless pointless war. No corrupted government to feed the rich and tax the poor. No omnipresent media to feed us shit and numb our mind. Just to our people working for the good of all mankind. Now we can keep the world we plan, based on sweat of every man. No more hate, no more fear, no postcards of who we knew. Now we can keep the world we plan, based on sweat of every man. No more hate, no more fear, no postcards of who we knew. 1,000 men and women come to save the race of man. While it's born in disrepair and no one seemed to understand. It was clear to all of us that we would never make them see. 1,000 men and women live together now in harmony.